David R. here. Today I'm going to talk to you about this book, A Divine Revelation of Hell by Mary K. Baxter. In 1976, Mary was praying, and she was visited by Jesus. Jesus told her that she had been chosen for a special assignment. Now, each night, she went into hell with Jesus for 30 days. And then another 10 additional days, she went into heaven with Jesus. So it was a total of 40 separate experiences. And her mission was to write down what she saw in both places. And that's what she did with this book here. Now, according to Mary, hell is located at the center of the earth, and it is laid out like a human body. There's the right leg of hell, there's the left leg of hell, there's the right arm of hell, the left arm of hell, there's the heart of hell, the belly of hell, there are horns and jaws of hell, and there's also the outer darkness, but that's not related to a body part. Above the earth, there are these spinning funnels, and inside these funnels is a tunnel, with each and every one of them. And that tunnel leads to hell. It is a gateway into hell itself. Within these tunnels, there are creatures embedded in the walls. And she said that they smell so bad, they nearly took her breath away. And as she and Jesus got to the base of the tunnel, she could hear the screams, the agony, and the smell got even worse. So first they entered the left leg of hell. And at first she could hear groaning sounds and what she called pitiful cries. As she said, screams filled the air as many evil creatures flew by us, up and out of the gateways of hell. So they were flying all over the earth, essentially. There were several pits in this left leg of hell. And these pits were 4 feet across and 3 feet deep. She said fire and brimstone were in this pit. Brimstone was embedded in the side of this pit and glowed like red-hot coals of fire. She said the center of the pit would be the lost soul, the soul that died and went into hell. The fire began at the bottom and then worked its way all the way to the top of this particular person. And the fire would die down to embers, and then there would be a rushing sound, and it would start back again. She said, hell is a horrid place, a place of agony, torment, pain, eternal sorrow. You see, our souls never die. Our souls are eternal. And even in heaven or hell, we can feel, see, hear, taste. Our senses are even heightened, according to her. So we never die. Our bodies die, but our soul will never die. It lives on for eternity. So she said that there are no parties in hell. Now, I've heard people say, yeah, all my best friends are in hell. They might be there, but there's no parties going on. There's no love, no gatherings of any kind, no peace. It's all sorrow It's all pain. She said that each time they would go and walk by one of these pits, the person would beg Jesus forgiveness. And each time he would just say, I can't do anything. Here's an example of such an incident. There was a cry from the center of a pit. And the skeleton form of a woman with a gray mist inside of her was reaching out to Jesus. Now, this gray mist thing, I don't know what it means, but it's in all of the souls in hell. Decaying flesh hung from her body like shreds, and as it burned, it fell into the bottom of the pit. Now, I don't know if the body rejuvenates itself and then it reburns or how that works, but the bodies are always reduced to a skeleton. She also said where there were eyes were now empty sockets, and this woman had no hair, obviously. Worms were crawling out of her bones, out of the bones of her skeleton. And she could feel the worms. Now, I don't understand these worms obviously are fireproof, I guess. I thought maybe everything would be burned in that pit, but apparently not the worms. And the woman said she could feel the fire and the worms and the torment. She cried out to Jesus, Lord, Lord, I want out of here. And Jesus would typically respond by saying, it is too late. Judgment is set. He said this in all the cases. Judgment is set. Or it is too late. Judgment is set. One or the other or together. That's what he always said. And oftentimes when Jesus and Mary Baxter would walk away, the person would curse at Jesus. So that person obviously had a lot of anger inside. In another pit, they came across a woman who I think was Marilyn Monroe, even though the author didn't say such. The person said these words: I was the most sought after woman of my time for my beauty. Satan used my beauty and my money, and all my thoughts turned on how much power he would give me. Kind of seems like it could be Marilyn Monroe, maybe another actress, I don't know. She also begged Jesus, let me out, please, get me out of this place. But Jesus turned to Mary Baxter and said, it's not God's will that people go to hell. Hell was made for Satan and his angels, not for humans. But if humans don't follow Jesus, or if they choose to follow Satan, then that's where they'll be, with him in hell. Even if hell wasn't really designed for us, particularly. Mary said that there were demons everywhere. And one was the size of a grizzly bear, brown in color, with a head like a bat, and eyes that were set heavy in the back of its hairy face. It's kind of a scary thing. Like a head like a bat? That's weird. With the body of a grizzly bear? It's very strange, don't you think? Well, anyway, demons were constantly going onto the earth, and they were ruining people's lives. They were attacking weak Christians, destroying homes, tempting people, getting people to do all kinds of sin. They were doing the dirty work for the devil, essentially. She also saw snakes, big rats, evil spirits, imps, and an army of evil forces. It kind of makes me wonder about ghosts. Maybe ghosts are real, but they are just evil spirits. I mean, that's what they could be. I don't know a lot about ghosts, but I've watched a few shows here and there. They always make the ghosts seem like they're good, but perhaps they're not. Perhaps they are one of these evil forces that she speaks of. So Jesus told her that there are different types of torment, and the people who get tormented the worst, according to this book, are the people who used to be Christians and turned away, turned back into sin, and caused other people to stumble. And that's another thing. Causing people to stumble is very bad. That can lead a person into hell and extreme torment. So a lot of these people were Christians themselves. And they were preachers. They were maybe nuns, maybe priests, I don't know. But they turned away. There were also witches, Satanists, and a Hindu woman who worshiped various gods. One in particular was a woman who was a witch. She even taught witchcraft. Jesus tried to get through to her several times, but she would mock him. And she was promised a kingdom in hell from the liar himself, Satan. And so she died, and she went before Satan. And the woman said, "Don't I get a kingdom?" And Satan laughed at her. And he said, "Do you think I would divide my kingdom with you?" He said, "This is your kingdom." And she was locked in a cell where she was tormented and burned and, all the other bad stuff. So after their journeys through hell, Jesus came back to Mary. Mary had been suffering a little bit because of all this. She said it wasn't easy to go through hell like she was doing. So Jesus came back to her, and then he took her to heaven, essentially. But the way I see it in this book, heaven was divided into a couple different planets. There was a planet of children who had been murdered by abortion, or stillborn babies, or even neglected ones. And then there was a new earth and a new heaven. The new earth was by itself as well. So I'm not sure how that all fit together. There were also animals that were with the children. So, not sure how that fits into the biblical standard of heaven, but that's what she said in the book. I'll just give you a little description of what she saw. She said there was green grass and pools of crystal clear water. I've read that before in other books. People have had near-death experiences talk about similar things that they saw. She saw children everywhere. They wore spotless white robes and sandals. These children were learning about God, and they were taught music from a golden book. And then on this other particular planet, she said she could see 2 mountains of solid gold. And it was the new earth that was written in Revelation 21:1. And she saw a city before her. This was the New Jerusalem. And it was in Revelation 21:2, where it says here, "I saw the holy city, the New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride beautifully dressed for her husband." I have 3 problems with this book. One problem I had was it seemed that Mary Baxter had more compassion, more empathy for the people in hell than Jesus. Although she did say Jesus wept a few times, but there was a particular instance where there's this woman was suffering. And Mary said she wanted to grab the woman, take her out of hell, away from hell itself, and away from Jesus too. So Mary Baxter had more love than Jesus himself. I mean, come on. I don't know about that. The second problem I had was there was a lot of Christians in hell. Some of them were even preaching while they were burning. How could that be? I don't know enough about Christianity to say whether that's wrong or right. It doesn't sound right to me, but I don't know. I just don't understand how a person could be preaching in hell while burning. It doesn't make any sense to me. The third problem I had with this book was that Jesus left her in hell 2 times. He left her there, and she was tortured. She suffered. Here's one particular instance. As soon as they entered the heart of hell, Jesus was gone. She said, the unthinkable had happened. I was alone in the heart of hell. Horror took hold of me. So she started to run through the darkness, but she was captured by a couple of demons, and she was placed in a cell. Next to her was a woman. This woman had been a prostitute. The woman had had sex with men and women. She broke up a lot of families and stuff like that. And Mary learned that in that particular area, there were a lot of homosexuals, lesbians, probably transsexuals or whatever else in that area suffering for their sins. So Mary was eventually taken before Satan himself. And Satan was who he is. He's evil. And Mary cried out for Jesus, and Satan said, there's no Jesus here. I'm your king now. And he asked one of his demons to take her to a dark part of hell where it was depressing, lonely, full of complete and utter darkness, and she suffered. But after a short time, Jesus rescued her. So, did Mary even go into hell and then eventually into heaven? I think that it's one of three things. The first one, it really happened. She really did get the invitation from Jesus. And she really was given a special assignment. Jesus really took her into hell. She really saw demons. She really saw these rats and snakes and worms. She really saw people suffering. She really was left in hell those 2 times by Jesus. All that really happened. She went into heaven. That happened too. Okay. Second, it was a hallucination. Maybe she has schizophrenia or some other disorder, and she could hear and see things that weren't there. Or even possibly these hallucinations occurred during a vivid dream, several vivid dreams, in fact. I don't know what her mental history is. She might be mentally ill. She might not. She might be on medication. She might not. I don't know. But that's just a possibility. And finally, she just made it all up. She lied for fortune and fame to make money. Obviously, she sold books. She's got several books. She's given interviews, lectures. She could just be a liar. People have done worse things for money. Well, anyway, if you want to read a horror story, then check out this book. Because it is horror. It is basically horror, like you wouldn't believe. But if you're a Christian reading it, you might be skeptical. There's a lot of things in the book that don't really add up. You might think perhaps she didn't experience these things. She lied. Or maybe you'll think that, hey, anything's possible. She might have had the experiences. I'll just leave that up to you. And there's also another book here that's quite good. 23 Minutes in Hell by Bill Weiss. He only spent 23 minutes in hell, though. It seemed that Mary spent a lot more time there. That's all I got. Talk to you later. Bye.